to my kitchen. My name is Steve DeVarco. I'm going to be 51 in 1 month, and I've been cooking for at least 40 years. I grew up in the Chicago area until I was in about 4th or 5th grade, and then I moved out to Tucson, Arizona, where I stayed there until I graduated from the University of Arizona in 1988. From there, I traveled domestically and internationally until I settled back in the Chicago area just this past year. I've been fortunate to have a lot of culinary influences in my life, mostly because of my travels, and wherever I do travel, I try to eat as many of the cultural dishes as possible. My cooking style can be described as traditional, yet very creative. I like to think it epitomizes the concept from the cartoon Ratatouille, mixing ingredients, combining flavors, and varying techniques into a more flavorful dish. I'm half Sicilian and half Irish, but I think the Sicilian part of my family had the biggest influence on my cooking. My earliest food memory was watching my grandmother make homemade pasta at 4 o'clock in the morning in preparation for a traditional Sicilian family dinner later that evening. I think I learned my way around the kitchen pretty well, especially starting as early as I did, helping my grandmother and my father help cook a family meal. I think both of them were very influential in my cooking and my passion for cooking as well. A lot of my culinary influences come from the fact that I've traveled across the world. I've visited over 12, 13 countries while on a 3.5-year expatriate assignment to the Middle East. And I've also visited 45 of the states, Alaska and Hawaii included in that. And I've lived in 5 different states from coast to coast, north to south. And I've also tried to sample the local cuisine whenever possible. I'm usually pretty modest about my cooking skills. Normally I let my the taste of my food speak for itself. But since you can't taste my food today, all I can say is I've never had a complaint about my food, and I've been told by many people that I should start my own restaurant. Normally, I'm not very competitive about my cooking. That said, I did win an amateur Iron Chef competition at the Marriott Grand Vista Resort in Orlando. My secret ingredient was new potatoes. So I made a new potato, roasted corn, bacon, cheese chowder. This was probably the hardest food challenge I've ever had in my life, and that was because I had to cook it in a kitchen that was unfamiliar to me, and all I had was 1 pot, 1 pan, 1 knife, and 1 spatula to work with. Plating was also an issue because I had to deal with the dinnerware that was available in the villa. So it wasn't very special, but I made some special doilies. I also grilled some pita chips to serve as a garnish. I think from that experience, I'm very qualified to do this challenge. I was very honored 3 years later at the same resort to be asked to be one of the judges of the Iron Chef competition. So I feel very confident in my food cooking abilities and my abilities to judge different foods. I like to cook, and I tend to make a lot of food when I do, not just to have enough for seconds or thirds, but I also like to have leftovers when I do cook. And obviously my food does hold up very well to leftovers the next day. I believe I started cooking out of necessity. You know, as a young individual in Boy Scouts, we were challenged all the time to make some really interesting things with very limited resources. But I also like to cook because of the therapeutic value as well. That said, I think I also enjoy the gratification of making someone else happy by seeing them enjoy my food. Normally, I would not consider my cooking style to be flashy, mainly because I like to be organized and clean in the kitchen when I cook. Besides the dishes that I'm preparing today, I've also laid out my cooking utensils and all my ingredients, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But today I'm going to cook for you a simple Sicilian comfort dish and I'm going to share it with my colleagues at work because I'm currently on a diet. But today I'm going to make sure that you understand that my kitchen is very small. Normally I would prepare most of this meal on a grill, but I just moved into a condo. As you can see, I can touch both sides of my kitchen without too much effort. So it's very small, and the condo does not have a patio, so I'm going to be forced to cook my sausages on the stovetop and a stovetop grill. With that, I'm going to pause the tape and change clothes so that I can be a little bit more comfortable and not have any worries about grease splatters.